In a break from our usual format, Lucian's having a break this week, we're going to take a deep dive into some of our research work with two of our brilliant researchers, Alice and James, talking about a major project that we're doing with google.org. Welcome to the Internet Seriously. Hi, I'm Emily Taylor and I'm the CEO of Oxford Information Labs, and I'm a policy and lawyer by background and a researcher for the last 25 years. So today we've got Alice and James from our research team, and they're going to talk through our use of AI in research, which is quite a new thing for us. And it's something we don't really get to talk about much, even when we're publishing big papers. A lot of the detail and a lot of the skills kind of get lost in it. So, Alice, before we sort of take a deep dive into our use of AI, could you just give us a bit of context? What is this project, and who is it supported by, and what are we hoping that the data will tell us?
Yeah, so my name's Alice and I'm a research manager, and we're doing this piece of research supported by google.org, which is the philanthropic branch of Google, and they're supporting us to do a big study into scam and fraud victims. And the trouble with researching scam and fraud victims is that all the existing scholarship so far is about susceptibility to scams.
What does susceptibility mean?
Well, that's a good question because it means different things to different people, but generally it's a bit of a victim blaming term. It's a bit of a
sort of, because you've got this thing wrong with you, that means
you're
you
more
fell
susceptible
for...
to or sort of, why did you fall for a scam? Or there's quite a lot of randomized controlled trials where they might take like one group of people with X characteristic and another group of people who don't have that characteristic, give them a kind of pretend scam, see how they do, and they'll be like, oh, group one was more susceptible, so if you prefer buying handbags to shoes, you are more susceptible to scams or something. They make these kind of big statements, and actually the evidence tells us that that kind of approach to crime prevention is not very successful. So why is that the case for scams? Well, it's because scamming is quite a unique type of crime. It is different to all other crime types. It's transnational, heavily industrialized, really difficult to prosecute, really, really difficult to catch scammers. And if you can't catch the scammers, you can't catch the criminals doing the crime. Well, your only option really is to kind of measure victims and to see, is there something, age comes up a lot. Like, is it that, and in those sort of groups of comparing people and seeing their response to a pretend scam, older people are often the ones who are measured. And if only one group is being measured again and again and again and again, they get loads of data where some of it will say, oh yes, older people are more susceptible to scams. But really, actually, it's a methodological bias, because if you just go in with the assumption that there is something to be measured, you end up measuring and measuring. And it's actually a big misconception that, that firstly, that anyone is more susceptible to a scam because anyone can be scammed.
So, Alice, I'm going to come to James in a moment and when we talk about the way that we're using AI. But you've talked about what other researchers do. So what are we doing that's different, and how is the GSE's data set being used in that?
Yeah, so we are trying to get as close to the scammer as possible. We're trying to sort of use our massive, massive data set of, I think it's now 1 billion signals. So we've got 1 billion scam and fraud signals, and most of the ones, I think all of the ones in our study are domain names and URLs. And what we do is we take, say, a URL that's been identified maybe in a phishing text or an email.
Just to clarify, a URL is what other people might call a link.
A link, yeah.
So it's
a link.
You're
a dodgy
often
link.
asked to click a link, aren't you?
So if you, I think everyone in this room, I think 50% of the world's population have received some kind of text that might say, your parcel needs a payment made, click this link to make the payment. So we take all those links and we look at them and we're trying to see, okay, what is the scammer doing here? What is the scammer thinking? And that's been a really big thing in our whole project and sort of it keeps coming up in training, is like, don't think like the victim, think like the scammer, and think, I'm the scammer, I've sat down to make my scam. How am I going to target my victim? And it's by doing that kind of scammer's point of view that I think we're starting to see some really interesting stories.
James, so whereas Alice is coming from a sort of policy and writing and also a healthcare background where you're thinking a lot about vulnerable characteristics, I know that's the wrong word, but James, you're more from a mathsy side. So Alice has talked about 1 billion signals as being our big data set. Now, not all of those would have a domain name in them. I think the majority are numbers, right? So domains and links are kind of, they're unusual because they have a technical function, so they get you from A to B, but they also have words in them, don't they? And tell us about, first of all, what sort of volume of data we're looking at, why, what it can tell us, and how AI can help us.
Absolutely. Yeah, as you said, Alice, we have, I think, nearing or maybe even past 1 billion.
Past, yeah.
It's past. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, it grows so quickly. 1 billion signals. Most of those are IP addresses, as you said, so numbers, which we can get some information from. But for this particular project, we are looking at domain-based signals. And so, you have some link that wherever it's been sent, whether in a scam email or text or whatever it is, it might be like payyourtaxesnow.com. And what we're doing is we're looking at the words in that link and we're seeing what meaning can we take from this that can give us an insight into the scammer's brain. What meaning can we take from these words that give us a clue? Who is the scammer targeting? Why did they craft the link this way? And so with Pay Your Taxes Now, for example, you're probably not targeting 5-year-olds, but you might be targeting perhaps working age people, maybe people experiencing financial distress, who might feel more anxious about paying their taxes because they think, I need to pay this, or I need to pay a bigger fine later, and that kind of thing. And so we're able to look at the words to get some meaning from it.
And what sort of volume of domains are there?
Absolutely. So there's, I think, about 70 million now, domain-based signals.
And so 70 million, big number.
Yeah.
Alice, compared to, you've been doing a lot of literature review, so compared to a lot of the other studies that have been done, and a lot of them very, very, good studies, solid studies, is that more or less than others?
A lot more, because the evidence base for scam and fraud research, you'll have a seminal paper, a classic study, and it will be like, we took 50 scam emails and we looked at all the tricks that the scammers were using, and that is the basis of all our academic knowledge at the moment. So obviously the scale of the GSE and its data means that our project's going to be like really on another level.
Yeah, it's an opportunity. Obviously, it doesn't mean that other studies are bad. It's just that they're different. So a lot of studies will be looking at qualitative measures. They might be talking very closely to human beings, and that gives you huge insight. Big numbers like 70 million gives an opportunity to really sort of take a very big view of what's in there. But so let's have a think about how could we, with a team of a small number of researchers, ever read 70 million signals?
It would take ages. It would be really boring.
Very boring.
And I mean, you could do it really good if you employed 70 million people to all read one signal. Then it would take
the whole population of this country do one signal.
Do one signal each.
How consistent do you think those outcomes would be, even if we did that?
Not
Probably not.
Even if you could get people to do it.
Yes.
So we have an opportunity to use technology to do something that we couldn't do as a team, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So is the AI good at reading stuff and getting meaning out of it?
It's very good.
Is it scarily good?
it's, I don't know if I'm scared by it, but it is very good.
We're very happy to say. So what we've been doing is, well, I mean, I did human reviewing in a project in 2020, so this was before the era of AI, and what that involved, it was like,
that was with Sam Bradshaw,
get
wasn't
70 million people to all look at one signal each, but it was like sort of 4 or 5 people looking at like thousands of online comments, and it was really mentally taxing because they're all hate comments and they're all very political, and you do about 5 and you're kind of like, okay, and then you do 100 and you start to feel really just like, I just don't want to read any more of these. They're just so miserable. And then once you've done 1,000 and you're not even halfway there, it really like gets you down. And that was kind of like the gold standard for this kind of research in 2020. And now, everyone talks about like AI powered this and AI powered that, but I really see like this is a use of AI where it's helping us with our research. It might help scam victims, and it might help the industry try to catch the scammers with a scale of information that was unimaginable in 2020. That study probably had like 4,000 comments, which was a huge piece of work, and you get a lot of insights from that. But also, it's sort of like you think, oh well, you're taking that job away from a human. And it's like, I want that job to be taken away from a human, reading thousands and thousands of hate comments. And actually, it's something that, I've been sort of talking to the team about a lot, is like, we're just looking at links. But some of them can be really sad, and you sort of read them and you're like, oh, this was used to target like a child or a really vulnerable person, and you can just
Do you
tell.
have any examples that come to mind, or I can come back to you on that?
Yeah, well, there was one... I remember those. I mean, it's not that sort of thing, but there's lots of scams that really clearly target neurodivergent people. So there was this one that was like neurospicyrecipes.com, which sounds really like unassuming on the surface. But, from being a speech therapist, from working with loads of neurodivergent people, I know that that's like a really niche in-group term that is used by neurodivergent people, like neurospicy, as a kind of rejection of a medicalization of neurodivergence. And so it's like, that's such a kind of insidious stalker level
like,
of knowledge.
I'm your friend.
I'm part of your
in-group.
I'm a trusted person. Here's some information. And it's sort of, I think the ones that really get to me are ones where you feel like there's been some like stalking, and it's very predatory, and or just ones where it's like, for really old people, you just feel very emotional, and it's like, well, I'd actually rather an AI read 75 million of those than a human have to do it.
Yeah, thank you. And James, we've just talked about the volume that we're looking at, 70 million, how it wouldn't be possible to even attempt it with a small team like ours, how actually going through it as a human, even a small fraction, has its costs, right? But in the policy dialogue there's a lot of anxiety about AI and what it will mean for society. And one of the best practice terms you hear trotted out is the human in the loop. Now, I've been hearing in the office over the last few weeks, human review. Yeah. Tell us what human review is, why we do it, and how it works alongside the AI to enhance the results.
Absolutely. Human review, it's a big part of what we've been doing. A very big part.
It's like triggering words every time I hear human review.
Yeah, we've all put a lot of work into it. Essentially, we have the AI prompt that can score our signals, that can read them for us, that can interpret them. But we don't actually know how well it's doing. And, we can make changes to the prompt and say, oh, it looks like the results are better.
So let me just take you back a step.
Okay.
So for people who are like, I maybe know a bit about what is an AI prompt. It's actually quite difficult to do, isn't it?
Sure. That's okay.
So your job in the research team has been, you're really all about the prompt, aren't you?
He's
So
a prompt
what is it?
engineer.
The prompt engineer. So this is a
Unofficial.
job that, they always say with new technology, jobs emerge that didn't exist
Yeah.
before. Like
It's an AI prompt engineer.
back in 2020, when you were reading thousands of hate
Yeah.
comments, and if I said prompt engineer, you go, what?
What does that mean?
James,
Yes.
you are a prompt engineer.
Sure.
Tell us what that means, and then let's talk about the role of human review.
Absolutely. So with AI, people might be more familiar with just writing to ChatGPT and saying, ChatGPT, I need help with my homework or whatever. A prompt is basically a pre-written request like that. So it's just a text file really that says, it gives details to the AI to describe, how it should act, what kind of task you want to give it, different things like that, the details of the task, and then actually the task itself.
And that prompt, so unlike a conversation with a chatbot,
Yes.
so I think a lot of us are having conversations with chatbot, and it might be you put in a line, it comes back with its paragraphs and its
Right.
bullet points, and then you refine it. Your prompt, I've seen your prompt. Your prompt is large,
Yes.
right? So you're giving it a role, you're
Yeah.
telling it what expertise it has,
Yeah.
and you're asking it to find things. So you're not just like, here's 70 million things.
Yeah.
Tell
What
us
do
what
you
they
think?
they mean, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You're directing it.
Yeah.
Can you give us some colour on that?
Yeah, totally. And when we're using AI, we want it to be giving the best results that it can. And so, we could just say, score these 70 million signals, but we have no metric of, is this meaningful? Does it know what a signal is?
Well,
You
also
know,
with our early prompt
Yeah.
attempts,
Yeah.
we'd say it like, give it a score from 0 to 100, and then for one signal it would give 30%, really strong agreement, and then for another signal it would be like 80%, not huge agreement. So
Yeah.
it didn't have a sort of reference point to
Yeah.
give the same sort of consistency of numbers.
So this is what people maybe are talking about when they're talking about training the AI. So it's this powerful tool, but it could be an unguided missile, if you like.
Right.
It can just be sort of like completely useless. And for me, watching this from afar, it's very exciting to see how our use of the AI is developing. But so you put a lot into the prompt. Now tell me about human review. So
yeah.
part of us as researchers, we have to be able to defend the results. We've already established we won't have looked at every data point.
Yeah.
So how do you defend your findings when a machine you haven't designed and you can't control has done a lot of the work? James.
It's a great question. It's a scary question, right?
Yeah.
How is that possible? The answer is human review, as we've said. So it's when you're using the AI, you want to be able to give a metric for how well it's performing. Is it just totally making stuff up and it looks kind of convincing on the surface, but really it doesn't mean anything.
And it does make stuff up, does it?
Well, it sometimes, yeah. But the goal is to make it make
There's some
stuff up
quite
less.
funny
right?
examples of like it will just take like literally just nonsense, or a word in another language. It will be like, clearly this is an anagram for linguistic disabilities, and it's like, well, I guess yes, if all words that aren't linguistic disabilities are an anagram for linguistic
Yeah.
disabilities, then sure.
But and then if you're sort of writing your confident findings on that, it's just rubbish.
It's just rubbish. So what we're doing is we want to have less and less rubbish.
Yeah.
Right? And so with the human review, what we're able to do is we have 2 to 3 blind raters, is what we call them. So they get to look at a pretty large sample. We have almost 400 signals. And they're going through and they're giving a score manually against every group that we're comparing in this sample. And so they're saying, I think this is the right score. We have a few of them doing it, and so it's not just one person's opinion, but we can actually get the majority vote of what we think is the ground truth, the right score.
So how often do those blind reviewers completely agree with one another when they're looking at a signal?
Actually, fairly often, surprisingly often.
We've
'cause
got quite
it's
a good
difficult task.
inter-rater reliability, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of times where all 3 people will have given completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that
Scores.
this is often, I'm all on board with, AI can hallucinate. You handle with care.
So can humans.
Humans also can disagree. Sensible
Absolutely.
people can disagree with particularly things that are kind of a bit
and all have
blurry.
really good reasons
And
as
have
well.
good, and they'd be
Yeah.
able to defend their decisions. But also, I feel, having gone through things like discovery as a lawyer, where you're you're categorizing thousands and thousands of documents, you get very tired.
Yeah.
And you would not even be consistent with oneself
Right.
in
Yeah.
a different
Yeah.
mood with a bit more energy, right? So is there a deliberate thing behind this 400-ish number?
There is. So there's, I was looking into it. There's this number 385.
Wow, that's very
It's
precise.
very
Yes.
precise. It's very precise. Which
It's like
it's
the-
a test now.
the
I need to remember
magic
the actual percentages.
yeah.
It's been a while, but I think you can say with 95% level of certainty that the true figure over the whole kind of population of all 75 million signals is within 5% of how Gemini performed on
The
sample.
300.
Okay.
right. And so when you have a sample of that size, you can say with again 95% certainty that the true figure is within 5% of how it performs on the sample.
Okay, so let me get this right. You've got all this 70 million stuff that
Yeah.
you've got the machine doing, and we don't know what it's doing. Then you've got human reviewers who are independently looking at nearly 400 pieces each. You get a score which is actually pretty consistent in real life on how they rate things. And then are you using that and then comparing it with what the AI is sending back,
Right.
and you want to get them kind of consistent, and then it's doing what we want it to do. Is that
Right. So pretty much like that. So what we have is called the golden set. It's also called the ground truth. This is basically like, for all the options in this 385 sample, we want to know what is the right answer. And in some cases, it's difficult to say the right answer, but we give our best guess.
We sort of have a thing of like, if the humans all disagree with each other, we need the prompt needs to be better, and if the AI disagrees with the humans, the AI needs to be better.
Yeah, when you say prompt, I think
It's
you mean
or
the
like
rubric,
the
right?
the rubric, the kind of the
scoring
the
criteria.
how we're categorizing
I
categories
see.
needs
Yes,
to be
yes.
better.
That's,
yeah.
I mean, it's a bit like doing a consumer survey, I guess. So you often think, I know what I want, sort of. You ask some questions, and then you get the answers back, and you're like, I should have asked different questions, because
Yeah,
they're obviously
exactly.
really confused by what I'm trying to get at
Absolutely.
here.
Yeah.
Then you realise you're a bit confused in what you're asking.
Yeah.
Is it a
And,
similar sort
that's,
of experience?
That's part of what
100%.
the human review process has been.
Yeah.
We had a few of the researchers just sat in a room for like almost a whole day looking at the rubric, the kind
Yeah.
of scoring criteria,
And all disagreeing with each
and
other,
all disagreeing
and
and saying,
then,
being able to justify it. And we realized, okay, we're thinking about this slightly differently. We need to refine the scoring criteria so that we
Yeah.
can actually agree with each other.
And we've changed our
and be
categories
consistent.
so many times. We've been through
Yeah.
and through this kind of experience of like, the AI just doesn't understand. Oh, it's because it doesn't make any sense to a person or to a team
Yeah.
of people. And then you change it and you try and get as close to like the
Yeah.
truth
Yeah.
and reality as you can.
So you feel now, I'm getting the feeling, first of all, I have picked up that the human review is not a great fun thing to do. There's
not
been a lot of
particularly
miserable
boring.
vibes going
Really
around.
boring.
But ultimately, it is,
very helpful.
it is the
Yeah.
right path. Now, we're always talking about letting the data tell the story, but sometimes with such a high volume, 70 million signals, it can be a bit difficult to hear what it's saying. So in your early results, we're still not there right yet, but we're nearly there,
Almost
aren't
there.
we?
Yeah.
Tell me that there's 4 categories, maybe 3 definitely, maybe 4. Can you just, we'll
Yeah.
go to
Yeah.
Alice, what are those categories? Just a little bit of colour on what we're finding.
Yeah, so this is kind of like the backbone of our research. What are we looking at? So we've got targeted groups, we've got age groups, and we've got thematic lures.
Ooh.
So I'll start with age groups because that's easy because we all know what they are. Groups, dividing the human population into age groups, surprisingly complicated.
And can you do that with just a link?
Yeah, because, well, I mean, there's
You can
some that
try.
are really, like over 60s cruises. It's like, well, that's targeting the over 60s. That's not targeting people in their 30s.
Yeah.
Or you might have sort of There's stuff that's a bit more ambiguous, but is kind of clear of like interview prep dot school. You're kind of like, oh, well, that's probably more like a sort of teenager, young adult. So you can get that kind of information, and it gives you a sense of how the scammers targeting people of different ages. We then have targeted groups, and this used to be called vulnerable groups. And
Take us
we made a
through
really deliberate
the differentiation
name
there.
change. Yeah, so I thought, and this comes from my safeguarding background as the deputy safeguarding lead. The word vulnerable, people try to avoid using it because it implies a kind of intrinsic, weakness that means, oh, well, that person got a crime done against them, but they're a vulnerable person. And it sort of culturally, we don't take it as seriously because we have this sense of, it's like it's baked into a person that they're almost like deserving, or that bad things happening to a vulnerable person are just inevitable. And actually targeted, it takes the onus away from the victim and puts it on the criminal. And that's the person we're trying to keep in the centre of our minds, is how are scammers targeting different populations. And so a lot of these targeted groups might have protected characteristics. So we've got a kind of disability cluster. But then there's also sort of other immutable characteristics like age. And sort of it gets less and less immutable characteristics-ish. So there's also small business owners. There's the general population. There's sort of states that you can be in, like a situation of vulnerability, like gambling addiction or substance abuse, and also bereavement as well. So it's sort of, we have a scale from stuff that you just absolutely cannot control about yourself, like your age or neurodiversity, to stuff that you might only experience temporarily, like being a small business owner. That's something that happens in part of your life and then not in other parts of your life.
Or bereavement.
Bereavement,
That's
is a transient state.
state.
People who are engaging in online romance of any variety. And what we're seeing is that the scammers use different techniques to target each of these different populations. That's where the thematic laws come in as well. So this is sort of like style of scam. So is it a threatening scam? Is it about sort of creating a social and emotional connection? Like kind of, there's like AIcinemacompanion.com, which is really sad, stuff that you're like, this is targeting a lonely person that wants some kind of connection with another human. And it's like, we see quite clearly different methods are being used to target different populations. And that sort of thing I was talking about earlier of the neurospicyrecipes.com. So that would be an example where we might not have a huge volume of scams that are targeting neurodivergent people, but the ones we see, there's a bit more of a really carefully crafted, very insidious, very kind of bespoke, stalkery attack, versus like the general population or a small business owner scam. There's a lot of gambling scams as well. That's come up as a really big targeted group. Gambling, money, get rich quick, people in financial distress, or people who are financially aspirational. So there's lots of signals that are like, doing degrees and stuff, or attending a conference. So
yeah, James, we just heard from Alice about the sort of the real breadth of thematic lures, the sort of the different categories of scams. Just from your personal point of view, what has surprised or shocked you or upset you about what you found out through this exercise?
I found there is a lot of overlap between the thematic laws. It seems that the scammers don't always just use like one kind of particular thing to try and target people. Like they're just pretending to be the government, but they're also giving you an incentive in that link as well, and they're also something else.
Threatening you.
Threatening you. Yeah, right. It seems that there's often kind of multiple things being heaped on to not force, but really incentivize you to click this link for whatever reason.
That's manipulation, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
And I do get this, it does open up a door into a different world that we don't really like to think about sort of deliberate human manipulation,
Yeah.
which is actually at the heart of scams and fraud.
Mm.
Let's just, as we're I've got one more kind of researchy question, and then I want to kind of take the helicopter up a bit and think about what we've learned and what it means. We, as researchers, we've got to be able to defend our results, which we've spoken about, and getting repeatable results. Are we starting to break through now and get consistent, repeatable results, or is that still a challenge?
It's a good question. So even just this week, we've had some breakthroughs. For targeted groups, we have the golden set. So this is what humans agree is the right
The ground
answer,
truth.
the ground truth, which allows us to test Gemini to test the AI against it, and kind of see how well is AI actually performing. And we have a few different agreement metrics, but we're well above 80. It's not a percentage, but essentially 80%, 0.8. Which is really encouraging. It's showing us actually the AI is in strong agreement with what we agree is the ground truth. It's not way off. It's actually giving very reasonable results compared to what we think it should give. And so the goal now is to kind of try to improve the AI so that it gives even better results and matches even more closely with the ground truth. Because then we can fairly safely assume that it's going to match closely with what we think the answers should be for all the data.
Yeah.
When we let it loose.
But I think even getting to that stage where you can say it's about this % accurate, or it's we have this level of confidence in it, means it's not just. I think one of the things that is people are anxious about the sort of prolific use of AI. I mean, I was at an event yesterday where they were talking about the use of AI in warfare and about targeting, and the. Just anecdotally talking to other researchers, it's the case that nobody disobeys the AI, right? It's not the human in the loop. It's actually the human as the channel for the instructions from the AI, and that is disturbing. What I'm hearing from you both is that we're saying our ground truth is actually set by humans who have some expertise, have argued with one another, have disagreed with one another, have layered up, have understood, this is how we improve it. And then we say to the AI, this is your instruction set. And we know how the AI is doing, because this is something that's very black box for all of us who aren't on the inside. Is the AI is we are then able to say, actually, we think you can do better AI, right? And but also we can defend what we've done, and we can be thoughtful about it. Thank you both for taking us through that, because I think, a methodology that's going to end up being a couple of paragraphs, maybe probably in an appendix.
It's been like 2 months of work.
The lived experience that you've been going through, which also creates a lot of expertise, is something that's very difficult to convey in a 3-minute thing on a panel. So thank you for that. But now if we think about what you've been through, let's take a lot of the current anxieties about AI and put them to you. One, are you enjoying it? Are you enjoying working with AI?
Yeah, I would say so.
And that's
I
really
don't know if
that was a
one-word answer.
That's what I'm feeling. I'm feeling like the excitement about it. Should we be scared of AI? There's a lot of anxiety. Put the radio on at any time, the TV.
AI.
There's a huge amount of anxiety about this technology. What do you say to people
One
who
of
are
my-
anxious about AI?
One of my friends the other day in the pub was like, do you know, Alice, like for someone with your personality type, you're really surprisingly not anti-AI, which I thought was a really funny comment. And I was like, well, yeah, because, I mean, like all my friends are very anti-AI. And sort of, I feel almost like,
are you
should I be
betraying
working?
them?
Yeah, am I betraying this? I feel like, number one, it would be a bit hypocritical for me to be an AI researcher and then be like, oh, this is a plague on humanity. I also think there's sort of like, I think people are sick and tired of just a kind of a marketing word that they see all the time on LinkedIn. It would just be like, we are now doing AI powered blah, blah, blah. And it's just, it's a load of rubbish. And I feel like there's a difference between that very surface level use of it, whereas like we are AI researchers, we are really getting our hands dirty with this stuff. And I know that, and there's all this, the ethics of the use of AI as a moral harm to society. And I think certainly for the artistic community, I can find very few cases where I'm like, oh, AI's just really like made
So much
everything better.
Yeah.
It's really, and obviously it's sort of like, well, they switched it on and it just stole everything from everybody, which you can't really come back from.
And stole all of the income streams, so you can really see that. But James, if should we be scared? What do you say to people who are scared of AI?
I can see why people would be scared of AI because it's so quickly growing. Like, I don't think any of us really know what's happening tomorrow with AI. New things are coming out every day. And, I can see it. Like, people are saying, can AI take my job? Can AI do the things that I've been trained to do? And, maybe in some cases the answer is yes, AI can do that. But I think also there are parts of humans that are just irreplaceable. And even if AI can be doing the grunt work of going through, like in our case, millions of data points, I think that's just allowing us to do more meaningful work and more interesting work and more creative work as well, because we're letting AI do the kind of grunt work for us, which I think is maybe one of the keys with this is, not being afraid of AI, but kind of utilizing it and seeing, okay, how can I use this tool to do more interesting things that I enjoy doing.
One of my colleagues the other day said it's like AI won't replace humans, but humans who use AI will replace humans who don't. And which I think can sound like quite a negative thing. But then also sort of going back to what I was talking about earlier, there really are some jobs that it is better and more ethical for an AI to do, like content moderation, which for a human is an unbearable, boring at best, and like completely traumatizing at worst. And it's like, well, we're now living in the world where we're needing content moderation to be done. And if an AI can unburden us of that very unpleasant task, which, as James says, it sort of leaves us free to do not just more interesting things, but kind of better things.
And do you feel that AI is making you more stupid or more intelligent?
More stupid, clearly.
James?
Well,
I think,
that's
to be honest, I think it depends how you use it.
You could look. We're all like we're in the best practice zone at the moment, and we're all. I think what you're doing is immensely impressive. I must say, but it is true. Our non-best selves can get AI to do a lot of boring stuff for us. Like, oh God, I can't bear to write that.
That's the thing. I think that culturally, we always like to shame ourselves about everything, and we like to shame. There's this perception of like laziness or attention spans are decreasing, which is actually just not a empirical piece of scientific evidence, but it's spoken like it is. And I think there's this assumption that it's making people lazy, it's making people not work as hard. And it's like, well, it's just making them prioritize different things. And it's like, are you really telling me that it is like critical to a human's existence that they sit and slog through 400 academic papers and find all the right quotes? Or like, and if they get an AI to do that in 5 minutes and then say really interesting things with that and check them and make sure they're all good and supplement it with a bit of their work, you're telling me really genuinely you think that that's not a better use of that person's time? I don't know.
I think I'm waiting for the moment where technology makes us live a life of leisure, which I thought, I thought we should all be on our deck chairs, sitting in the sun, sipping our pina coladas or beverage of choice, and just having a lot of time. But my impression, having sort of gone through a number of these waves, and AI is definitely a very seismic change, is it doesn't make us less busy, it just makes us go faster. And actually that can actually create a lot of anxiety in a sense. So it's not that we're stupid, it's not that we're de-skilling. We're de-skilling for some things, there's not very many people now who can shoe a horse compared to when that was the form of transport that was prevalent. But there are lots of skills that we will be losing. But I'm listening to both of you and really hearing a lot of skills that we're acquiring in thoughtful use of technology for research. So any final comments? I want to come back to you both when we're unpacking our findings and really getting more into the sort of what is being said. But I really thank you both for sharing the how and some of the challenges. Looking ahead, let's not even do 5 years, it's too long in the distance. How do you think research is going to be changed by these sort of tools?
I think scale is the number one thing for me. It's like you were sort of saying about, it's like breadth versus depth. So for the first time in human history, we can get one machine to do the job of the 70 million people, the population of the UK, in seconds, minutes, you know. And that, it's like the Human Genome Project. It's like that it changes a lot of things. It gives you loads and loads of information. But there's no replacement, like you said, for that really in-depth, quality, you know, human research. So I think it will, and also your thing really struck me of like, it's making everything faster. That's a kind of moral neutral, not necessarily good, not necessarily bad, but I think it will just sort of, there'll just be a lot more stuff, a lot more data points in research.
Thank you, James.
No, absolutely. I agree. And I think that at the end of the day, AI is a tool. And, you know, if we're using that tool to do things quicker, to do things more efficiently, to be more creative, because we don't have to be doing all the groundwork, like I said earlier, I think that in the next few years, like, we will be seeing people, new jobs coming out. I think that we'll be seeing people thinking in different ways, working in different ways. I think there'll be an increased freedom. Because people don't have to be doing stuff the same way they used to, and like you said, they can do it much faster. And I'm really interested to see how that shapes up.
Thank you both very much. It's been really interesting talking to you both, and I'm excited by this project, and excited to be observing all of the pain and the triumphs that go with it. So look forward to hearing more from you. Congrats, and thank you for this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.